Hi, I'm Rich Harwood, founder and president of the Harwood Institute for Public Innovation, and this is Harwood Half Hour Live, a new edition. Today's topic, gratitude is not just for Thanksgiving. So I'll get to that in a minute, but before I do, as you're coming into the space today, flip me a message to make sure that you can hear me. Also, let me know where you're watching from. That'd be great to hear from you. And also, here's a question for you. When you think of gratitude, what do you think about? When you think of gratitude, what do you think about? So just a few days ago, it was Thanksgiving. It may seem like a long time ago. It certainly does to me now. I'm in the full swing of my week. But when you think about Thanksgiving and your Thanksgiving this past week, how did it go for you? How did things work out? You know, right before the holiday, I had sent out 3 tips to how to have difficult conversations with relatives and friends during Thanksgiving. And I have to tell you, personally, I put some of those to use myself after the meal on Thanksgiving evening. But Thanksgiving is not just about difficult conversations, which we often have. It's also the holiday in which we think about gratitude. And so this Thanksgiving, what were you grateful for? What did you, sometimes some of us we do at our house, go around the table and say, here's what I was grateful for the last year. So for you, what were you grateful for over Thanksgiving? And how did you think about that? But here's the other thing I think about when I think about gratitude and Thanksgiving, which is a lot of times that can be the only day that we think about gratitude. It sort of comes and goes. We hear the talk shows the day before Thanksgiving, sometimes the day after. We roll into buying goods and services, going shopping after Thanksgiving, and on Cyber Monday. But you know, a lot of times when it comes to gratitude, it's a short-lived thing for us. And so today, what I want to talk about and what I want to engage you in thinking about is what is gratitude, and what does it mean to be grateful all the time, and particularly in our shared lives? So when I was thinking about this, I was thinking about how might one define gratitude? And as I've been reading about it and thinking about it, which I've done over many years now, but I return to some of the things that I like to read about gratitude. There are 3 kind of definitions or 3 levels of gratitude that are worth thinking about and exploring. So the first one is this. You know, a lot of times when we think about gratitude, we think about it in terms of appreciation. That maybe we're appreciative and grateful that it's sunny out today, or maybe we're appreciative and grateful that, you know, here in DC, we'd say we're grateful that the metro showed up finally on time this morning, and I can get my day going. Or maybe we're grateful that we were standing out in the rain and a bus came down or a car came down the street and it didn't run through the puddle and spray us with water. So we're appreciative of that. Or maybe we're appreciative that someone held the door for us when we were walking into a store or into our office, and we're grateful for that. So that's kind of maybe the most basic definition of gratitude, of being grateful, having appreciation for something that someone else did for us. Another definition of being grateful or having gratitude is that someone actually did something more for us. Maybe they did us a favor. Maybe they sent us a gift. Maybe they mentored us. And in this way, we are directly impacted by something that someone did directly for us, for you. And many times we feel this sense of gratitude directly back to that individual. And in this sense, a lot of times this can create a sense of, I want to return the favor. You know, there's the old saying, someone did a favor for me, I want to find a way to return the favor to them. Sometimes someone buys you a gift for a holiday and you say, well, I want to buy them a gift next holiday, maybe next Christmas or for their birthday or for some other holiday or something. Or maybe someone mentored me and I want to return that favor to them. I want to show them my gratitude for all the mentoring that they did. And so maybe we write them a letter, maybe we call them up. And in this sense, gratitude can sometimes feel like we have a desire or a responsibility, sometimes even a feeling of obligation that we want to return the gratitude to the person who afforded the gratitude to us. So that's another way. So one is appreciation. The other is that someone did something for us. And here's the third one, which is the one I really want to concentrate on today and want to get you thinking about as you make your way through the world. And that is that if you think about being turned outward towards society, we're engaged in a common endeavor, a common enterprise called community. And we lived our shared lives together, and we're creating those shared lives together, hopefully. At least that's what all our work is about here at the Institute, about how we can do that together. And here gratitude is, how is it that I see others doing things in community or in our shared lives that may or may not directly impact me, much like someone giving you a gift or mentoring you directly. But we can be grateful, we can have gratitude, we can show gratitude for the things that other people do who may live 1,000 miles away, may live on a different continent, may be engaged in something very different than what we're engaged in every day. But we have a sense of gratitude for what they do. We have a sense that we're co-creating something together called community or a shared society. And in that sense, this is a deeper, more expansive notion, at least for me. I don't know about for you, but for me, it's a more expansive notion of what gratitude can be. And it's something that we can live every day in terms of how we seek to make the world better, how we seek to engage with those around us, how we think of ourselves living in the world. And so as I talk about this, there are three questions I'm wondering what you think about. One is, in what ways are you grateful in our shared lives? Not just appreciative for something that happens to you in the morning, or grateful because someone did something directly for you as an individual, but in what ways are you grateful in our shared lives? Second, why or how is it hard for you to be grateful? You know, we live in tough times now, where we have acrimonious and divisive discussions, where so many people seem to have grievances, where we're on one team, not the other team, meaning we're on the Democratic team or the Republican team, or we're on the rural team versus the East Coast or West Coast team, or whatever it may be. So in what ways do you find it difficult to be grateful in these times in which we live? And my third question for you is this: will you act? Because it seems to me that gratitude can live just as a feeling within ourselves. I feel grateful for what you did for me. But there's another way to think about gratitude, which is it is in action, that I want to demonstrate my gratitude because of something that someone else did. I want to show my gratitude in a way. And this in our shared lives is even more important, because the people who we might want to show gratitude toward, we may not even know. They may not be in our daily lives in the sense that we personally know them, that they're a relative, a friend, a coworker. And so in that sense, taking action to show gratitude, I think rises to another level. It requires something more of us. It demands that we step forward in a different kind of way. And so that's a different way to think about gratitude. So when I think about this, when I was thinking about this actually coming into this episode today, I was thinking about the story of the Good Samaritan, the parable. And I thought it would be interesting just to tell it real quickly, because I think it raises certain questions or certain issues or challenges for each of us in our shared lives, in the ways in which I'm talking about gratitude today. You know, you probably know this story, right? The story of the Good Samaritan. There was someone walking down a path, and all of a sudden someone comes along and knocks the person down and robs them and hurts them, injures them, right? And they're laying there on the ground, hurt, moaning and groaning. And then all of a sudden, in their despair, they see someone coming down the path toward them. And lo and behold, it's a priest right? Someone of the high social order in society at that time, and in this biblical parable, right? And one would expect that this priest, this person of high social order, would be the first person to stop. They have the most resources. They have the most standing in the community. They have the most credibility in the eyes of so many other people in the community. And you know this story. What happens? This priest, this person of high standing, sees the person on the ground and walks right by them, right? Then there's another person that this person on the ground sees coming toward them on the path. It's another person of high social standing in the community, another person with resources, another person who is looked upon with credibility from others, by others in the community. And what happens when this person sees this injured individual on the ground? He bypasses them again. So these two people of high social standing with credibility and resources, the people we would most expect in some ways to stop and help this person on the ground, they ignore him. They bypass them. They essentially don't see him, right? And then lo and behold, there's a third person that this individual on the ground sees coming at him. And he must have felt some greater despair, because all of a sudden he sees that this person is a Samaritan. The person, in today's terms, we'd say lives on the other side of the tracks. The person with the least resources, the person who might be wearing old clothes, the person who doesn't seem to have, in traditional sense of community, we don't afford a lot of power to or standing to. And what happens? What happens? The person, the Samaritan, is walking down the street. He sees the person on the ground, and unlike the first two people, he stops. And not only does he stop, he bends down and asks the person on the ground how he's doing. And not only does he bend down and ask the person on the ground how he's doing, he lifts the person up. And not only does he bend down and find out how the person is doing and lifts the person up, but believe it or not, he walks him all the way back into town. And not only does he walk him back all the way into town, but he makes sure that he finds medical treatment for this individual so that the person can be treated for his injuries. And not only does he wait for this person, but he waits to make sure that the person is able to move and get on their way back to their life. So what does the story tell us? What does it tell us? Particularly, what does it tell us if we think that we're living shared lives where we're in this common endeavor of making community a common enterprise together? What does it tell us? I think for me, in terms of gratitude, what it tells us is that in order to be grateful, in order to show gratitude to those who may do something for someone else, in this case, the Samaritan who stopped for someone else, that we need to be able to see and hear all people. We need to be able to see what they do. We need to be able to hear what they do. And in order for this to happen in our shared lives, it means that we need to be turned outward. It means that our orientation needs to be outward looking so that we can see and hear, in fact, that this person was knocked down, that yes, these two other people bypassed him, but there was this Samaritan who stopped. There was a Samaritan who stopped. And that if we wanted to be grateful in our shared lives, we would express gratitude for that Samaritan, to that Samaritan, this person who may be different from us, who may sound different from us, who may live in a different part of town from us, who may be in a different part of our economic strata than us, but that he exists. The second piece of this is that we value all people, that in order to be grateful, we have to recognize all people, that we have to afford everyone a sense of dignity in that sense. And so in this way, we might be grateful to the person who was knocked down, who was left there. He would be grateful to someone who came along and helped him. But in our shared lives, and that would be sort of the second definition of gratitude that I offered, that we are grateful to someone who helps us. But in this case, we would be grateful again to the Samaritan who stopped. And we would be grateful in the sense that we afford that person dignity. Now, here's the twist on this. So many people in our society today, because of our politics, because of our acrimonious and divisive discussions, because some of us are labeled as Trump voters and some of us as Hillary voters or Obama voters or whatever it may be, because we have these labels, that we actually may not be willing to afford everyone dignity, that we may not, and therefore when we don't, even when someone stops and does something positive and productive and meaningful and helpful to someone else, we may still choose not to acknowledge them. And when I say acknowledge, I don't mean just see and hear them, which is important, which was the first part of this, but we may choose not to afford them dignity because we don't like their political views, because they're from some other part of town, or because we did some kind of battle with them, or because we want to win at all costs. And to afford them dignity would be to raise them up, and to raise them up would be to give them some kind of status, and to give them some kind of status would be to suggest that they have some kind of power, and to suggest that they have some kind of power might mean that we would be fearful that we might lose the next battle with them. And so we hold back. We decide not to express our gratitude, especially to those who are different from ourselves, especially from those with whom we disagree. We decide not to express our gratitude. I hear this all the time from people who say, well, that person voted for some candidate. I just don't want anything to do with them. Or that person I disagreed or something, and I just don't want to have anything to do with them. And I think if in fact we want to have shared lives together, and if we want to make community a common enterprise, then gratitude is not just for around the Thanksgiving table, and it's not just for people who do us personal favors, and it's not just for people who mentor us, and it's not just for people we like or that we agree with. Gratitude is an expression that we give to anyone who does anything positive in the world that's helping to create a better society, a more hopeful society for us. And so in that sense, we have to afford each and every person dignity. Because when we don't, it's almost impossible, it seems to me, to be willing to express some form of gratitude. And then third and last, we need to recognize the person's contribution, which means that you can't express gratitude halfway. You can't kind of mumble it. You can't kind of say, well, that was kind of nice. We actually need to really recognize their contribution. And here's why I think this is so important in terms of expressing gratitude and the power that gratitude can have beyond just the expression of it to the person or people who did something positive. When we publicly express gratitude for someone else's efforts, particularly those who are not like us or with whom we disagree, we are actually engendering hope. We're recognizing what someone else is doing. We're lifting it up. We're shining a light on it. And in doing so, particularly for those we disagree with, we are saying there is something productive, there is something positive happening in society. And that in this day and age, with so much negativity, with so much acrimonious discussion, with so many people at each other, with so many people questioning one another's motivations, with so much demonization of the other person, when we lift up these examples of gratitude, we are saying there are pockets of change, efforts that are taking place that are actually productive, that give us a sense of possibility and hope. And so in this way, as I said earlier on, gratitude is not just a sentiment. It's not just a feeling. It's not just something you do privately to other people that's important. When we do it publicly, it is an action. And in taking that action, we are actually engendering hope. And I don't think there's anything more vital, more necessary, more important, more essential today than engendering hope and a sense of belief that we actually care for one another and we can actually get things done together. And so in this way, gratitude is not just for Thanksgiving, right? It's for every day. And that gratitude is not simply a private act, though that's important. There is something about it being a public act. And when gratitude actually deals with our shared lives, we can see and hear one another through that gratitude. We can afford people the dignity that each and every one of us deserves because it's a birthright, it's non-negotiable. And when we recognize one another through gratitude, it is actually an act of engendering hope. And so I hope this was helpful today. I'd like to say I hope you're grateful that we did it, but that would be one of the lower definitions of gratitude. Instead, what I'd like to say is make it a point to recognize and be grateful to others in your shared lives with others, beyond family and friends, so that we can help build a stronger, more hopeful society. So that's it for today. I hope this was helpful and useful to you. I'm thrilled you joined us for another episode of Harwood Half Hour Live. We'll be back next week, same time, 4 p.m. Eastern Time, with a new topic. Until then, remember, we're celebrating our 30th anniversary here at the Harwood Institute. Our work is rooted in a philosophy of civic faith and takes place through the practice of turning outward. Our work has spread to all 50 states in the US and has been pulled into 40 countries. And in this celebration of our 30th anniversary, we are working each and every day to find ways to support your efforts to create a more hopeful society. If you want to know more about the Harwood Institute, go to our website, theharwoodinstitute.org. And until next week, I look forward to being in touch and be well. Thanks.